Welcome to today's episode of the New Home Show. When you're designing a new home, you want to know all the different options that are available to you. We have an industry expert, Chris Wood from Perma-Chink Systems. We'll go in depth. We'll make sure that you don't overlook any opportunities when applying stain to your home, and you'll see all the incredible options that are available with Permachink. Chris, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate your air conditioning you've kept outside here today. So anyway, I started coming on my 40th year in this business. Wow. I started when I was 3.5. So I started in design and engineering and gravitated into sales and sales management, and then get into manufacturing and installation and crews and such. And I've been using Permachink for 33 years in the sales, and it was a good comfort zone. They're just down the road from me in East Tennessee, and they needed some help on these commercial accounts going around the country, and it was a good fit for what I'm doing. And most of these accounts I'm familiar with and been working with over the years. So I'm still learning some of the chemistry part of it, but I've been using their products for years, and they're, good products, great people, and the customer service is pretty good too.
So if you've been in the industry 40 years, how long has Permachink been around then?
Since 81. So we're on 43 years now.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about Permachink. What exactly do you guys offer? What do you specialize in?
Permachink's manufactured in Knoxville, and it's all water-based sealants and stains and cleaners for wood type of construction. And it started in the early days, in the early 80s, coming up with a synthetic mortar, chinking, which allowed for expandability and stretching, and it beat out the old cracked, mortar that was done with square log construction, typically dating 200 years ago. So it was a very popular product at that point, and it was located in Knoxville because that was the hub of square log construction in the 80s, with a half a dozen manufacturers, cutting there and shipping around the country. And then they got into the stains and late 80s. That's when I first started working with their stains for providing some protection on exposed wood. And then they got into sealants, like caulking, basically, that stain grade. And then they got into cleaners, strippers and things like that, to be able to help maintain log and timber homes. So it's a full gamut, and it's pretty well engineered, but it's all water-based, eco-friendly and low VOC stuff, and they sell it worldwide now. We've got distributors throughout the world, and certainly Canada and North America.
Yeah, and you guys, there's been a big shift to use a lot of natural materials in homes now, and we see a lot of timber accents on homes. Maybe some products, a maintenance-free product throughout the rest of the exterior, and then putting these timber accents. The farmhouse look is huge right now. So I think, you just don't have to build a log or timber frame home to use your product. We see it in a lot of different styles of homes. So what are some of the other color palettes that you guys are seeing that are really popular right now? In maybe just not the log and timber industry, but in just the residential construction market in general.
Farmhouse white is a big
right?
deal, and they're maybe conventionally framed, maybe they're timber frame, and they're board and batten, and a lot of times you see the blacks are in too, blacks for the roofing, and as well as black on siding with maybe dark natural for trim around the corners and windows and doors, to provide that accent. But the timber awning is a big deal. Sure. It provides that protection on the weather side for those triple windows exposed, and that usually is wood type of construction, and a metal roof, and we're providing stain for the wood, but the farmhouse stuff, with the shiny metal roofing is pretty popular right now too.
No doubt. Yep.
So a customer using those timber porches or awning roofs like you were talking about, what are some things they should think about when selecting their exterior stain? What are some benefits that Permachink offers in their different exterior lines?
Great question. And, we have light colors that you often see on the inside, and darker colors are more popular on the outside. Clears don't work outside. I don't care who makes it, that just doesn't hold up to the UVs and everything else. So we don't even recommend a clear as a stain only. Top coat, yes. And their clears are on the inside to get it more lighter and brighter, of course. But darker stains tend to hold up a little bit better on the exterior. And it depends also on the texture that you're using for the porch beams or things like that. Horizontal surfaces are treated a little differently than vertical surfaces. And what I mean by that is decks that you walk on, railings, don't hold up real well to film-forming stains. So we've got a log and timber defense product that's more of a hybrid water-based, but it does penetrate, and it's used and intended for horizontal surfaces. And you can get any color palette to match with your walls and your timbers and all that. So we mix it up and use the defense products on horizontal and our Ultra Series, Ultra 2 or Ultra 7 on the vertical and on the posts and beams.
Okay. Let's dig into that a little bit. How many different lines of stains, just looking at the exterior for now, how many different lines do you have for the exterior stain? And what are some of the differences in those lines?
Again, a good question. The standby that, I'm familiar using for a long time was the Lifeline Exterior. It's a great product. And it's been around a long time, and it's a little less money. You get into Ultra 7, and that's a one-coat application. It's a little tricky for the applicators because you've got to chase the shade, and it sets up and dries fairly quickly. So it's usually a spray on and a back brush with 2 people operation, or a brush on with 1 person to avoid lap marks, to keep it a one coat. And the applicators love it that are familiar with it because it keeps them from going around the house twice. But you got to manage it. And Ultra 2 is very forgiving, and it's really the top of the line product, 2-coat application, and goes on great. It's easy to avoid lap marks, and the colors are nice. And then there's accents, and that's the 4th line that provides those special colors on trim, details, corners, awnings, things like that. And then all of it usually has a top coat, clear top coat, and called Advance, and it's intended to extend the life of the stain and make it last longer. And certainly on exposed walls, high up in the gables or where the weather's coming in, it pays dividends to put that final top coat on those exposed areas.
And any reapplication in the future would be the clear top coat?
Generally, yes. You need to wash it, and we'll get into that, I guess, in a bit. You got to have a good, clean surface, no matter what you do, before you apply stain. And so washing it, getting it ready a day before you actually start the staining is such a key, product or thing to do to keep the stain from sticking the longest it can possibly stick.
How would you prepare the surface for reapplication?
Reapplication, there's good, better, best on the cleaners that we have. Log Wash is a wonderful product. You, again, do it in the shade. Don't let it dry, but you spray it from the bottom up, let it sit for 15, 20 minutes, and then rinse it off from the bottom up, and then finish rinsing from the top down. So you got to make sure your cleaner gets off the surface. And if you need to do a pH test, make sure that your, matches the pH of the water that's coming out of the faucet. That's when you know that all the cleaner's off the wall. So you got to clean the surface first and then let it dry, and then you're ready to apply your stain. And then the top coat, again, that kind of extends the life of the stain. And, every year, if you get an opportunity to put some Log Wash on and rinse it and get the pollen off, that's the main thing around here in Wisconsin is, the pollen's pretty brutal. It makes it look brand new again and extends the life of the stain. If you have to get into more harsher cleaners because it's gone too long, 10, 15 years, then that's another conversation, but there's good, better, and best as far as stronger cleaners as needed.
Sure. So it sounds like there's a lot of steps involved with applying the stain, making sure it's prepared correctly, which is good. It's going to make the stain last a long time. Do you recommend applicators? Do you guys have applicators that clients can get in touch with, or general contractors can get in touch with? How does that work?
Well, we're pretty good at training, and we run these applicator-only workshops where it's hands-on, that's classroom as well as out in the field and showing them how to do it. And once they sit through the training, and it's usually down in Knoxville, but we also have them in our regional stores as well. But they go through that, and then they provide, financials and credit check. They make it on our Find a Contractor section of the website. So what you do is go to the bottom of the Permachink.com and you find a contractor and punch in your city and state or your zip code, and it will pull up within a 250-mile radius all the people that passed the smell test. And so you can kind of click on and see whether they provide thermography and media blasting, chinking, log repairs, and kind of narrow down who you want to talk to and pick up the phone and call them direct, or you can email them. And we do track the effectiveness of the website for bringing in referrals. And these applicators love it because it brings them business.
Right.
With our clients, we make sure that they always have that log wash available to them. We always include that with our log and timber home packages. We really believe in it. I think it's a great product. I use it on my home twice a year. And oftentimes I'll actually take a brush and I'll scrub it on, and then I'll spray it off with a pressure washer.
Yep.
But of course, with the pressure washer, I think a myth that people think is that they can just take the pressure washer close to the house. Got to make sure you have a pretty wide fan on it so you don't damage any of the wood.
Yeah, and if it's a maintenance cleaning, a garden hose will oftentimes work, But if it's the initial and you're getting that construction debris and dirt and all that, sometimes you got to do a little scrubbing, but pressure washers, best up front.
So we kind of discussed the exterior stains. Obviously, you guys probably have a large selection for interior stains too.
We do.
I assume you don't need quite as many offerings just because it's not exposed to the elements, but what are some of the highlights of your interior stains that you see?
The Lifeline interior has been around a long time, and it's got a lot of, the clears all the way up to the colors. It just doesn't have the UV protection built in. So if you happen to have that big wall of glass that's facing south and west, and you don't have a porch extending out to protect the UV from coming in, then it probably pays to add a UV additive to the standard Lifeline interior so that you can avoid yellowing and that mark on the carpet when you take the carpet off and the floor is shows where the sun's coming in. That's UV issues. So our standard works great. The only thing is, add some UV protection. Usually the interiors don't have any mildicides because some people are sensitive to, the stuff that keeps the bugs and mildew off the exteriors. So you don't usually need any mildicides on the interior. And then the acrylic is kind of a top coat. So some of these round log profiles or D-log like a nice shiny, surface, and sometimes that's a second step. Once you get the color down is you put the acrylic on, so it makes it easier to clean. It's kind of shiny, and it holds up well to interior. Otherwise, you don't really have any maintenance on the inside of the house. You don't see many people restaining the inside once they get the color they like.
It's done.
Your acrylic clear top coat is very nice, but I really like Sure Shine as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a little, like any flooring, it's better to do 2 or 3 light coats and try to do a flood coat on it. And you got to do a little sanding in between, like doing an automobile, but it holds up great to dogs, claws, heels, foot traffic. And when it hardens like that, it's definitely intended to be a flooring product, but I see people using it on the walls too.
Yeah, we've had clients use it on the walls. They just like that it's got the thicker application.
Yep.
We have a sister store called Log Home Art.
Oh.
People are calling in or looking at the website all the time, and they're looking at all the Perma-Chink options. And usually the first question we get on pre-existing homes is, can I put that over the stain I currently have? For those who are out there watching or listening and they're having the same consideration, how do you even get started with knowing, can I apply Perma-Chink over what I currently have on my home?
We call it the spray bottle test. So if you get a spray bottle and fill it with water and you squirt it on the surface and it beads up and runs off, you got a problem. Mm-hmm. Water's not going to stick to it. But if you spray it on it and it kind of penetrates into it, then you got a great shot at using this log and timber defense as a penetrating product over oil, but it's got to be cleaned really well. So if it's been freshly oiled in the past 2 or 3 years, they need to stick with oil or take it down to the bare wood. Oil and water just don't play well together unless it's old oil and the water can penetrate.
I think a lot of people just maybe, when they're looking for a stain product, maybe just go down to their local hardware store or, box store. But you guys obviously have a superior product. What really sets you apart from some of those maybe like box store brands? What's the big selling point to Permachink? What sets you apart?
I would think that customer service plays a role. We do provide free sample bottles, and we help the customer through the color decisions.
Okay.
And we do coach them on how to prep the surface, and we do have applicators that can do it if they don't want to do it. You don't get all that stuff from the box stores.
Sure.
But if you know what you want and they've got it on the shelf at the box store, go ahead and get it. But they're not stocking as many oils anymore either. Right. And it's just a change in the process, and we're trying to keep ahead of the curve.
Sure. I think what's such a great value for your accounts that you have through Permachink, people like us, is that we have a tremendous amount of experience with your products. So there's a bit of tribal knowledge there. Whereas you go to the box store, the person you're talking to there probably has no idea how that stain even works, no suggestions for applications. Just think of how different a home would be depending on where it's being built. We've got different environments. We've got homes in the mountains, high UV exposure, heavy winds. So we'll be able to offer different recommendations compared to the person standing in the aisle at Home Depot.
Yeah. Do you guys recommend different products for different regions, for different areas of the country?
I think that our products actually can work about everywhere.
Yep.
But if you're building in Houston and the humidity is 95% and it's 90 degrees out and you're in the woods and you got pollen, you need to think about the additives, mildicides, certainly use the UV boost in there to help protect it. And again, it goes back to design primarily. You've got to design for the elements that are there locally. But I think our family of products can work anywhere and everywhere around the country. Okay. And there's really not any area that they don't work. But it all comes down to surface prep and application and maintenance.
Sure.
Is the UV boost what you would have used on the interior of the home as well?
You can if you need it. You don't usually need it unless you've got that big wall of glass and you're trying to keep, the things from fading just inside where the UV hits it.
So let's say we have, I'm asking this probably on behalf of my wife, because
Great.
she really likes the Scandinavian style, very bright wood.
Uh-huh.
I tell her, well, honey, we've got a lot of pine, and I'd rather use pine in the home, but I don't want it to yellow over time.
Yep.
Can I use UV boost with a clear coat on the inside of the home? And will that help prevent the pine from yellowing?
It's going to certainly help. The acrylic, though, is engineered to do it, to minimize the yellowing on that. So if you want to put a clear, just put acrylic.
So you could find, if they like to color like in the accents, but wanted to do it in a different exterior.
Yep.
You guys can mix that formula for like the Ultra 2 in that color?
Yep.
Okay.
Same thing with the timber defense, log and timber defense and the deck defense to match it up with the wall logs, and no upcharge or no extra fee for that.
We've actually been doing that a handful of times with our clients within the past couple of years. A lot of them have been seeing, we've got some colors behind us here, but grays and black walnuts, and there are so many great gray options, but we see them in different lines and want them transferred over to a different line. Called up Permachink, and they said no problem at all. It's been great for our clients. It's nice that they can go through our showroom and be able to see a color and get what they want, and not have to be pigeonholed to one product line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and with the showroom, I get hats off to you guys because it helps people visualize. Most people don't understand or get a comfort for colors until they see something they like and agree on it. And with all your stops along the way here, you can make that decision pretty easy for these folks.
Thank you so much. We even have more colors to pick. We've got caulking and chinking. So we speak to that. And my big question is, at what point do you put that product on? Do you put those products on after you've stained the home or before the home's been stained? Or somewhere in the middle?
There's Energy Seal, or Woodsman is caulking, so to speak. And Woodsman is more of a smooth finish, and Energy Seal's got some sand texture in it. And typically you want to put that on before you stain it, because they take the stain really well. So you'll have kind of a seamless transition around window and door trim and corners and things like that. You can put it in after and then go around and touch it up, or put it in and get it pretty close. But aesthetically, if you want it to have disappear, put it on before you stain it. Chinking is a different deal. Chinking is like pin striping. And you typically see that on wider chink spaces, squared, hand-hewn, products that have 2 to 7 inch chink spaces, historically accurate ones. That goes in after the stain is on. And you could put it in before, but you're going to spill stain on it. And then you got to touch it up. So it's like pinstriping, put it in last. And chinking's also used in kind of a Western round log detail, where they use it around the saddle notch corners, around the window and door trim. It's just a different aesthetic.
Oh, that Yellowstone look.
Yeah. No, it looks great. And it's just, you see it more with round products and out west, but that's also done after the fact.
So why is there 2 different products? Why caulk and chinking?
Well, chinking was one of the first things that was developed by Permachink. And so it's a little more elastomeric for 4-inch plus chink spaces. Energy Seal wasn't really designed for anything more than maybe an inch or so of width. It can be done, but it's really not intended for that. So it's the wider spaces that the chinking is more applicable for.
Okay.
The chinking is going to make a pretty loud statement compared to the caulk. Caulk's just going to blend in, right?
Yeah, and the caulking is easy to apply, and it's smoother, and chinking is artwork. And, you're using kind of a pastry knife to swirl and do all that. So it doesn't, it looks great if you add a little character to it.
Can a clear go over that chinking? Can your Lifeline Advance go over the chinking product?
Yes, you can, but I wouldn't waste the Advance on it. If it spills on it, you wouldn't notice it. But brush on, the Advance after the chinking's on, in the future, and don't spray it, and you won't have to waste as much. But if you happen to get some on the chinking, great, but it doesn't really do anything for you.
Okay.
So if you have to restain or reapply stain down the road and you have chinking on the wall, you get stain on that chinking. Do you guys offer a product that you go back and touch that up with versus actually re-chinking it?
We have chink paint, and it's watered down chinking. It's got, the granules in it, and it's sticky stuff. So you got to keep your tools and your brushes clean and all that, but it's intended for touch up. If you spill stain on the chinking, you could wipe it off pretty darn quick and it won't set up. But if you just stand back and spray from, 3 feet away and you let it all drip down, you'll be getting some chink paint and going over it. It's better to hand apply stain when you're doing recoats, maintenance stuff down the road.
You see most guys on new homes, are they brushing it or are they spraying it?
It's all a matter of your team.
Yeah.
So there's a common phrase, you got to chase the shade. You don't want to apply stain in direct sunlight. And when the surface is 120 degrees, it's just not intended for that. So you stain around the house in the shade. And if you're a one-man band, you're applying it by hand. Because by the time you spray and put it down and you go back and try to back brush, things are just setting up. But if you've got 3 men, one sprayer and 2 people back brushing to keep up with it, that's pretty efficient. And sometimes you need 2 people to keep up with, the person that's doing the spraying.
Sure. What do you mean by back brushing? Explain that.
So on all water-based stains, you've got to come back and with a brush and smooth it out. Otherwise, you're going to get drips where stuff runs, and if you just let it go, that's going to set up. So you put on a light coat, back brush it, work it into the cracks and the knots and the hand-hewn, the little crevices, and it will penetrate better, stick better, and ultimately look better.
With your Ultra 7 product, you had mentioned it's 1 coat of stain.
Yep.
What if a person wants to do 2 coats and then a clear over it? Is that okay?
It can be. It's never intended to be that thick. Like with any film forming product, you can get it too thick. But what happens is when people try to do a 1 coat and you see the lap marks, they're resigned to go back and put a 2nd coat on it. Well, hopefully they learn from that house, and the next one they only do 1 coat. But if you're going to do 2 coats, go with the Ultra 2. It's less money, it's easier to work with, and it was designed for 2 coats.
And if using the Lifeline accents on the exterior, you recommend 2 coats for that?
Typically you want to get your sample bottles and try it on your product. And if you like 1 coat, stick with 1 and put a top coat on it. But a lot of times to get that deep color and the luster, you need 2 coats.
I would say that having done a heck of a lot of staining in the past, I would much rather apply with 2 coats just as a one-man band. You know?
It's more forgiving.
It certainly is. What's that phrase you always say about designing a home? That high quality, high performing stains can't overcome poor design?
Yeah, that's pretty much,
something
good
to that.
Yeah, good products can't overcome bad design.
And we've been taking that approach and those principles for so many years at Golden Eagle. We will never go shorter than 2 feet on the overhangs. Many of our homes have 3 to 4 foot overhangs.
Good.
Cover porches are oftentimes implemented as whether they're wraparound cover porches or large gable porches, particularly on the south side.
Good.
Places that get a lot of high UV exposure. Of course, we like to put stone around the foundation area of the home.
Oh, yeah.
We don't want to bring the wall log down any lower than the floor system. What are some other things that we do, you guys? We like to encourage gutters on homes.
Gutters and downspouts.
We also take a look at that Forever Home Build series. So it has a lot of wood on that home, but all of the gables, they have stone in the gables. Well, who thinks of that, right? It's just so cool. It takes that home to a whole new level, and it looks really awesome. And of course, it's low maintenance, maintenance free. We have a lot of great maintenance free options here in our design center showroom.
Yeah.
So we live in these homes. We will do reapplication on our own homes as well. So when we work with clients through this process, we like to look at it as, well, what would we do if we're doing it for ourselves?
The other thing is landscaping. It's the big mistake I see over the years. That cute little tree looks great, 10 feet away from the house, and you come back 25 years from now and it's rubbing up against it. And that's never good for whether it's concrete or wood. You got to keep the the landscaping off the house
and just proper drainage too. I mean, I think that's landscaping is one of the last things to go in on the home, and a lot of clients typically don't budget for that, so it kind of gets shortchanged at the end of the project. But to your point, super important. Make sure landscaping is thought of. Water, if we're building on a mountain or a hillside, making sure that water is shedded away from the home, so it's not running
French
into
drains.
them. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
And just keeping the airflow. I've seen a lot of customers where they plant the flowers right up tight to the house and they're watering them every day.
Yep.
But they're not allowing that natural airflow to kind of get in there and dry out that corner of the home or something. That's where you're going to possibly see issues.
Automated sprinklers kill you.
Oh yeah.
People, they turn it on and they're done. They don't have to worry about it, but they're never over on that side of the house looking at this sprinkler that's hitting the siding and then, never drying out. And that's never a good thing. So keeping the landscaping, away and avoiding the automatic sprinklers pointing towards the house is kind of helpful.
There you go.
There are so many great options when designing a new home, and I think we just kind of touched the surface on this. Let's kick it over to the Golden Eagle YouTube channel, where we'll have a very in-depth discussion addressing some of the perhaps common myths with stain, also the great opportunities that are available for anyone building a log and timber home. So
Great.
If you're watching this, head on over there. We'll have a link in the description.
Imagine a life where your home is a work of art, where nature and luxury embrace, with a custom Golden Eagle log and timber home. Our expert team is here to guide you every step of the way.